Yeah,
people one by
please
one
go
they are
ahead.
joining.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Is it from, yeah,
It's the
in a
second
ridiculous,
paragraph in a ridiculously simple
yeah,
but very famous
oh,
study. Mm.
yeah. I'm reading from the shared screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm starting. In a ridiculously simple but very famous study led by the late social psychologist Daniel Wegner, subjects were told to avoid thinking about white bears. They failed miserably. Even later, in fact, when the ban was lifted, they thought about white bears much more than a control group. Scroll up, please. But it actually denies us control. Okay, this is the, where was I? Lifted, they thought about the white bears more than a control group. That hadn't started out under the no thoughts about white bears sanction. Any dieter who has dreamed of chocolate cake and French fries understands the counterproductive nature of just don't think about it and other avoidance strategies. This is the irony of bottling. It feels like it gives us control, but it actually denies us control. First, it is your emotions that are calling the shots. Second, the suppressed emotions inevitably surface in unintended ways, a process that psychologists call emotional leakage. Perhaps you're angry with your brother. You try to suppress it. Then, after a glass of wine at the Thanksgiving dinner, a snarky comment slips out of your mouth. Now you have a major family drama on your hands. Or you scroll up, please. Thank you. Or you ignore your disappointment over a failed promotion at work. And then a few days later, find yourself howling like a baby while watching Armageddon for the 10th time. This is the risky business of bottling. Bottling is usually done with the best intentions, and to the practical person, it does feel productive. Think positive, forge forward, and get on with it. We tell ourselves, and proof just like that. The unwanted emotions seem to vanish, but really they have just gone underground, ready to pop back up at any time and usually with surprising and inappropriate intensity, ginned up by the containment pressure they have been under. It is no surprise either that bottling can have a negative effect on, scroll up, please. Okay, it is no surprise either that bottling can have a negative effect on relationships. We just had a massive fight and he heads off to work as if nothing had happened, says the beleaguered wife of the bottler. He just doesn't care. Yeah, please scroll up. He just doesn't care. Yeah. In one study, researchers found that bottling increases other people's blood pressure, even if those people don't know what the bottler is bottling. Wait until the divorce lawyers get hold of that research. Your, your Honor, my client's husband is going to give her a heart attack because he refuses to express his feelings, spiraling in angst. If your choice was B for most of the three scenarios I presented a few pages back, you're a brooder. And just as bottlers are more likely to be men, brooders are more likely to be women. When hooked by uncomfortable feelings, brooders stew in their misery, endlessly stirring the pot around and around and around. Brooders can't let go and they struggle to compartmentalize as they obsess over a hurt, a perceived failure, a shortcoming, or an anxiety. Brooding is a cousin of worry. Both are intensely self focused and both involve trying to inhabit a moment that's not now. But while worry looks forward, brooding looks back, an even more pointless exercise. Brooders lose perspective as molehills become mountains and slides become a capital become capital crimes. But brooders are ahead of bottlers in one respect. In their attempt to solve their problems, brooders are at least feeling their feelings, meaning aware of their emotions, while brooders may not be in danger of emotional leakage, though they might drown in a flood. When you brood, your emotions don't gain strength by being pressurized in a bottle, but they do gain strength. With brooders, emotions become more powerful in the way a hurricane does, circling and picking up more energy with each pass. Uh, thank you. The psychologist Brad Bushman did a study in which he asked students to pour their hearts into a piece of writing. Then he had another student offer a withering critique. In fact, the other student was Bushman, and the criticism was the same to everyone. This is one of the worst essays I have read. The feedback had the desired effect. It made the participants really angry. Then Bushman asked the subjects to spend some time hitting a punching bag. He instructed one group to think about their anger, that is, to brood. While they smacked the bag, he even offered them a fake photo of the critical student to give a little extra juice to um, scroll up, please. Extra juice. So, hmm, one lost the line. Aware of while brooders may not be in danger of emotional leakage. Yeah. He even offered them a fake photograph of the critical student to give a little extra juice to their jabs and undercuts. He encouraged a second group to distract themselves, that is, to bottle by thinking about improving their physical fitness while they punched. He had a third control group sit quietly for a few minutes while he pretended to repair his computer. After the punching session, each participant was given an air horn and invited to blast the people next to them, a measure of aggressive behavior. All three groups were still angry, but the control group showed the least amount of aggression, blasting the horn the least often. The bottler displayed more aggression and more horning, blasting than the control group. But those in the brooding group were the angriest of all, and they were most aggressive in blasting their neighbors with horrendous, ear splitting noise. Like bottlers, brooders usually have the best intentions. Ruminating on troubling feelings offers a comforting illusion of contentious effort. We want to deal with our unhappiness or to learn how to cope with a difficult situation. So we think it through, then think and think and think some more. At the end, we are no closer to resolving the issue at the core of our distress. Brooding also makes you more likely to blame yourself with questions such as, why do I always react like this? And why can't I handle this better? Like bottling, it takes up massive amounts of intellectual energy. It is exhausting and unproductive. Brooding isn't always a solo activity. When you go out with a friend and have a big moan about how your widowed father is mismanaging his finances, you're doing what's called co-brooding. Okay, just scroll up a bit. Co-brooding. When you find yourself complaining to an office mate for the upteenth time about your boss' tone, you're doing the same. We might think that these venting sessions will make us feel better, but given there is no forward moment or resolution, the end result is you're likely to feel even more annoyed at your father or so infuriated by your boss you can't concentrate. Okay, would anyone like to take over? I've completed that sentence.
Yes, I may.
Yeah.
From where it is?
Yeah. After brooding makes us, where is it? Remember?
Can you
Yeah,
highlight it, please? Yeah.
remember how we talked
Yeah.
about
Okay, got it. Yeah. Remember how we talked about bottlers' effect on the people who love them. Brooders are similarly hard to deal with because they tend to dump their real heavy emotions on others. They want to talk it out with those close to them, but at some point, even their nearest and dearest get empathy fatigue, tiring of a brooder's constant need to talk about fears, worries, and struggles. Moreover, the brooder's self focus leaves no room for anyone else's needs. So, listeners often.
Someone is breaking.
Voice is breaking.
Continue,
it-
continue, Suman.
Okay. Tiring of a brooder's constant need to talk about fears, worries, and struggles. Moreover, the brooder's self focus leaves no room for anyone else's needs. So, listeners often ultimately walk away, leaving the brooder feeling both frustrated and alone. And then, of course, brooders can slip into the trap of misery anxieties, in which they worry about all their worrying. In psychology, just as there is system 1 and system 2 thinking, there are also type 1 and type 2 thoughts. Type 1 thoughts are the normal human anxieties that come up as you tackle life everyday's obstacles. Yeah, page up, please. The deeper you sink.
So the big project at work.
The big project at work, the crazy schedule, last night's fight, parenting concerns. Type 1 thoughts are straightforward. I am worried about X or I am sad about Y. Type 2 thoughts happen when you enter the mental house of mirrors and start to layer in unhelpful thoughts about the thoughts. I worry that, I worry so much, or I am stressed about being stressed. To our troubling emotions, we add guilt for having them. Not only am I worried about X or sad about Y, but also I have no right to be. We are angry at our anger, worried about our worry, unhappy about our unhappiness. It is like quicksand. The harder you struggle with your emotions, the deeper you sink. Whatever we may think we are accomplishing by bottling or brooding, neither strategy serves our health or our happiness. It is much like taking an aspirin for a headache. The medicine relieves your pain for a few hours, but if the source of the headache is a lack of sleep, a knot in your neck, or horrendous cold, that headache will return with full force as soon as the analgesic wears off. Bottling and brooding are short term emotional aspirin we reach for with the best of intentions. But when we don't go directly to the source, we miss the ability to really deal once and for all with what is causing our distress. If I held a stack of books away from my body with my arms straight out in front of me, I would be okay for a few minutes. But after 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, my arms would begin to shake. This is what happens when we bottle. Trying to keep things at a stiff arm's length can be exhausting. So exhausting, in fact, that we often drop the load. But when I hold the books tight to my body, hugging them as if to crush them, my arms muscles will also begin to shake. In this position, my arms and hands are clenched, closed, and unable to do anything else. This is what happened to us when we brood. In both cases, we lose our ability to be fully engaged with the world around us, to hug our children, to be present with a colleague, to create something new, or to simply enjoy the smell of the newly mowed grass. Openness and enthusiasm are replaced by rules, confining stories from the past and individuals' judgments, and our ability to solve problems and make decisions actually declines. These rigid postures stop us from being agile when we need to deal with life's stressors. The occasional brood or bottle or even a flip back and forth between the two now and then won't kill you. This is a book on agility, after all. Indeed, sometimes these coping strategies may be the best course of action. For instance, if your beloved unceremoniously dumps you the night before your bar exam, it behooves you to shove your distress aside so you can concentrate on the task at hand. If this has actually happened to you, by the way, you have my sincere sympathy. It is when these strategies are used as default coping methods, as they often are, that they become counterproductive and actually embed the hooks deeper and deeper. We learn to brood or bottle early in life. And if you have children, it is worth pausing for a moment to think about the content of your conversations with them. The unwritten rule book about emotions and how men and women should respond to them contains what psychologists call display rules. Big boys don't cry, and we don't do anger here. Go to your room and come out when you have got a smile on your face are examples of the imposition of display rules. I will never forget the day we buried my father. Well meaning family and friends told my 12-year-old brother that he should not cry because he needed to focus on looking after our mother, my sister, and me. We learn these rules from our caregivers, and in turn, we often unintentionally pass them down to our own children. For example, we are much more likely to ask boys about tasks. What did you do at school today? How was the game? Did you win? Whereas we tend to ask girls about emotions. How did you feel? Did you have fun? Children quickly internalize these rules, which, as we will see in chapter 10, don't always serve them. Next, hooked on happiness. Brooding and bottling are not the only unproductive ways people cope with life's stresses. Another common strategy is the belief in one form or another that all will be well if we can just keep on smiling. Despite what it says, just a minute. Despite what it says in the Hollywood script, Forrest Gump did not actually invent the smiley face. But after 50 years and hundreds of millions of have a nice day buttons, t-shirts, and coffee mugs, that bright yellow circle with the schematic grin and black dot eyes is as iconic as the red, white, and blue. And why not? After all, the pursuit of happiness is front and center in America's Declaration of Independence. In the digital age, the smiley face has morphed into the emoticons and emojis that pop up everywhere. Side note, I have just discovered that if I try to go old school and type a colon followed by a right parenthesis, my computer changes it to a smiley, whether I want it or not. And with each advance, or some might say regression, in our consumer culture, in which marketers hustle to fulfill desires we didn't even know we had, the blissed out state of Mr. Smiley becomes ever more the holy grail, the organizing principle of our existence. Wait, isn't happiness why we are here? Isn't happiness good for us? Well, that depends. A while back, two researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, Lee Ann Harker and Dacher Keltner, searched the records of Mills College, a nearby private women's school, and inspected the yearbook photos from 1958 to 1960. As nearly every happiness researcher will tell you, genuine and false smiles activate different muscles group. So the two scientists examined the look on each student's face to see whether her zygomaticus major or orbicularis oculi muscle was at work. When we give an authentic teeth-bearing bright smile that produces crow's feet, both muscles are at work, but the orbicularis oculi cannot be contracted voluntarily. So, if we put on a fake happy face, this tiny muscle, which is located near the eyes, stays still. This gave Harker and Keltner a pretty good idea of how genuinely positive each student was feeling at the time her photograph was taken. 30 years later, the students who had exhibited the sunniest and most genuine yearbook smiles in that fraction of a second as the shutter clicked were doing much better than those who had offered smiles that were a little less real. The genuine smilers had more satisfying marriages, greater feelings of well being, and were more content. Click, given a choice, we had probably preferred to be a slap happy all the time. And there are advantages to that pleasurable state. More positive emotion is linked with the lower risk of various psychological illnesses. Yes, including depression, anxiety, and borderline personality disorder. Positive emotions also drive us to success, help us make better decisions, reduce the risk of disease, and allow us to live longer. In some cases, they even help broaden how we think and act by directing our attention to new information and opportunities. They help build vital social, physical, and cognitive resources that lead to positive outcomes and affiliations. With all this, you might presume happiness ranks right up there with food and sunshine in its contribution to human well being. But as our increasingly obese melanoma afflicted society has come to understand, it is possible to have too much of a good thing. And research shows it is possible not only to be happy, but also to experience the wrong types of happiness and to go about trying to find happiness at the wrong time and in the wrong ways. I am not saying it is better to go around in a funk all the time, but I hope to get you to keep the pursuit of happiness in perspective and to see your negative emotions in a new and more accepting light. In fact, I strongly submit that describing them as negative only perpetuates the myth that these useful, albeit sometimes challenging feelings are, negative. If I can persuade you otherwise, I will be happy, but not too happy. When we are overly cheerful, we tend to neglect important threats and dangers. It is not too big a stretch to suggest that being excessively happy could kill you. You might engage in riskier behaviors like drinking too much, a fifth round on me, binge eating, more cake, skipping birth control. What could possibly go wrong? And using drugs, let's party. An excess of freewheeling giddiness and a relative absence of more sober emotions can even be a marker for mania, a dangerous symptom of psychological illness. People with high happiness levels sometimes exhibit behavior that is actually more rigid. That is because mood affects the way our brains process information. When life is good and we feel great, and when the environment is safe and familiar, we tend not to think long and hard about anything too challenging, which helps explain why highly positive people can be less creative than those with a more moderate level of positive emotion. Not to stereotype the happy among us, but when we are in an everything is awesome mood, we are far more likely to jump up to conclusions and resort to stereotypes. The happy more often place disproportionate emphasis on early information and disregard or minimize later details. This typically can you please point out where it is? Yes, this typically takes the form of the halo effect, in which, for example, we automatically assume that the cute guy we have just met at the party is kind just because he wears cool clothes and tells funny jokes. Or we decide that the bespectacled middle aged man with a briefcase is more intelligent or reliable, say, than the 22-year-old blonde wearing hot pink juicy couture shorts. Our so called negative emotions encourage slower, more systematic cognitive processing. We rely less on quick conclusions, and pay more attention to subtle details that matter. Okay, the guy is hot and he seems into you, but why is he hiding his wedding ring hand behind his back? Isn't it interesting that the most famous fictional detectives are notably grumpy, and that the most carefree kid in high school is rarely valedictorian? Negative moods summon a more attentive, accommodating thinking style that leads you to really examine facts in a fresh and creative way. It is when we are in a bit of a funk that we focus and dig down. People in negative moods tend to be less gullible and more skeptical, while happy folks may accept easy answers and trust false smiles. Is that show of pearly whites below the pencil thin mustache just the zygomaticus major, or is the orbicularis oculi also involved? Who wants to question surface truth when everything is going so well? So the happy person goes ahead and signs on the dotted line. The paradox of happiness is that deliberately striving for it is fundamentally incompatible with the nature of happiness itself. Real happiness comes through activities you engage in for their own sake rather than for some extrinsic reason, even when the reason is something as seemingly benevolent as the desire to be happy. Striving for happiness establishes an expectation, which confirms the saying that expectations are resentments waiting to happen. That is why holidays and family events are often disappointing, if not downright depressing. Our expectations are so high that it is almost inevitable we will be let down. In one study, participants were given a fake newspaper article that praised the advantages of happiness, while a group read an article that made no mention of happiness. Both groups then watched randomly assigned film clips that were either happy or sad. The participants who had been induced to value happiness by reading the article came away from viewing the happy film feeling less happy than those in the control group who had watched the same film. Placing too high a value on happiness increased their expectations for how things should be and thus set them up for disappointment. In another study, participants were asked to listen to Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, a piece of music so discordant and jarring that it caused a riot at its 1913 debut. Some participants were told to try to make yourself feel as happy as possible while they listened to the music. Afterward, they evaluated themselves as being less happy compared with a control group that was not chasing Mr. Smiley. The aggressive pursuit of happiness is also isolating. In yet another study, the higher the participants ranked happiness on their lists of objectives or goals, the more they described themselves as lonely on daily self evaluations. Happiness also comes in a variety of cultural variations that open up the possibility of being happy in the wrong way. In North America, happiness tends to be defined in terms of personal accomplishment, including pleasure, whereas in East Asia, happiness is associated with social harmony. Chinese Americans prefer contentment, while Americans with European backgrounds prefer excitement. Japanese culture is built around loyalty, with its connection to guilt whereas American culture embodies more socially disengaged emotions such as pride or anger. To be happy within a given culture depends more than a little on how in sync your feelings are with that culture's definition of happiness. In short, chasing after happiness can be just as self defeating as the bottling and brooding we talked about earlier. All these coping mechanisms arise from discomfort with negative emotions and our unwillingness to endure anything even remotely associated with the dark side. Yes, do I have to read this also? Good news about bad moods.
Yeah, you can please go ahead.
Okay. Good news about bad moods. While it is rarely fun to be in a bad mood, and it is certainly not healthy to constantly stew in negative emotions, here is that what experiences of sadness, anger, guilt, or fear can do. Help us form arguments. We are more likely to use concrete and tangible information, be more attuned to the situation at hand, and be less prone to making judgment errors and distortions, all of which lends an aura of expertise and authority that can make us more persuasive as writers and speakers. Improve memory. One study found that shoppers remembered significantly more information about the interior of a store on cold, gloomy days when they were not feeling so exuberant than they did on sunny and warm days when life felt like a breeze. Research also shows that when we are in a not so good mood, we are less likely to inadvertently corrupt our memories by incorporating later misleading information. Encourage generosity. Those in negative moods pay more attention to fairness and are more apt to reject unfair offers.
You have to
Make
actually read from Encourage Perseverance.
okay, yeah. Encourage perseverance. After all, when you already feel great, why push yourself? On academic tests, an individual in a more somber mood will try to answer more questions and go and get more of them right than he or she will when feeling cheerful. It might actually be a good idea then for your college bound son or daughter to be in a slight funk when it is time to take the SAT. And given the typical state of most 70 years olds, you are probably already in a good shape on that aspect of test preparation. Make us more polite and attentive. People in less exuberant moments are more cautious and considered and more likely to engage in non-conscious social mimicry in which we mirror another person's gestures and speech without knowing it, a behavior that increases social bonding. When we are feeling great, we are much more assertive, which often means we are focused more on me, and might ignore what others have to offer or are going through. Encourage generosity. Those in negative moods pay more attention to fairness and more apt to reject unfair offers. Make us less prone to confirmation bias. In a study of people with strong political opinions, those were angry chose to read more articles that disagreed with their positions. Instead of practicing confirmation bias, the common tendency to seek out information that supports what we already believe to be true. After exploring these contrary views, they were more willing to change their minds. It seems that anger produces a nail the opposition mentality that encourages us to explore what the other guy has to say in order to tear it apart, ironically, leaving the door open to being persuaded. Yes, if anybody else want to read, otherwise I will continue.
Okay, I'll take over, Suman. The upside of anger and other challenging emotions. Pretending to be happier than we are is a losing proposition. And pushing ourselves to be more genuinely happy is definitely self-defeating. Partly because it raises impossible expectation, and partly because our own false smiles and eagerness to grab all the gusto deprive us of the benefits of negative emotions. It's usually when we get knocked down a few pegs that more of the subtle, sometimes painful, but potentially important underlying details in life come to the fore. Not surprisingly, great writers from the Greek tragedians to the romantic poets to the authors of those huge 19th century Russian novels have found much that was instructive and valuable on the dark side of the human emotional scale. It was our old friend John Milton who, in I Will Penseroso, exclaimed, "Hail, divinest melancholy! Melancholy. Our raw feelings can be the messengers we need to teach us things about ourselves and can prompt insights into important life directions. I saw this when a client came to me with the anger problem. The two of us worked together to examine his feelings and sort them out. He realized that maybe he didn't have an anger problem so much as he had a wife who was placing nearly impossible demands on him. By accepting and understanding his difficult emotions, rather than trying to suppress or fix them, he began to improve his marriage not by remaking himself into milky toast, but by learning to set better boundaries for what was acceptable behavior. In addition to anger, wrath, envy is one of the other 7 deadly sins. In truth, envy can be a strong motivator, even stronger than admiration, in driving us towards self improvement. One study showed that students who expressed benign envy toward a more successful student showed a greater motivation than those who expressed admiration. The envious participant ramped up their schoolwork and performed better on various verbal tasks. Other bad emotions are useful for different reasons. Embarrassment and guilt can serve important social functions in fostering appeasement and furthering cooperation. Sadness is a signal to ourselves that something is wrong, often that we are looking for a better way to be here and participate. And outward expressions of sadness signal to others that we could use some help. Suppress the sadness under a veil of false cheer, and you deny yourself the directional guidance and maybe also the helping hand. As you may recall, when we ran through the list of common everyday scenarios of being hooked, there was always a point C. That approach is neither bottling nor brooding, but rather being present and having an open heart to all your emotions in a curious and accepting manner. That's where we are going to turn next to show you the methods that actually work to get you off the hook and into a healthier and yes, happier way of living. So by this we have come to the end of chapter 3, which was how to unhook. The aspect of unhooking was discussed. Now tomorrow we'll take up the chapter of showing up, which is the first step in actually getting unhooked. Yeah. So anyone wants to talk about what they found important first time they learned from these today's discussion or today's reading?
Yes, my takeaway from today's learning was that in negative circumstances, sometimes they are very good for us. They bring us the best in us, and we perform better in negative circumstances sometimes.
Okay. So basically, the negatives also have some purpose. And so basically, every emotion is having a purpose. We are labeling it as positive or negative. Rather, the author asks us to understand that negatives also have some benefits, and thereby they are required to be there, right? But we can always control the limits to which it can capture our thinking process. Yeah. Anything else, Suman? Hello.
Yeah, now I
Anybody
just
else?
want to
Yeah.
share something. Am I audible? Deepa
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So the bottling and the brooding part, no, that was very fascinating. And the experiment which the researchers did, the three groups they divided, that was quite fascinating. I would like to read that again on my own. So yeah, bottling up is very, most people do. And brooding is also just thinking about the past and not moving on. So yeah, that is certain things, most people have, and that leads to relationship issues, not able to progress in life. They come to a point where they get stagnated. So, and maybe somewhere they find comfort in that, I don't have to make any effort. I can keep blaming and just thinking and worrying about something. So that part was very fascinating and interesting for me. I would be reading that again. Yeah.
Anything
And
that
anyway, you all will be discussing more about it, and I'll have more learnings there.
yeah,
Thank you.
so anything resonated with your experiences, which you have seen, you have felt on your own, with experiences with yourself, with others, something just popped up when you read those.
Yeah, actually, it did pop up. Certain things which, when we are talking and we are doing something, and the outcome when it happens, we think about it in hindsight, I could have done this way, it could have happened this way. Yeah, it does happen, but not in a negative way as such. For me personally, for me, every setback actually puts me forward. Whenever something bogs me down, I have seen that I've always pushed myself forward with that thing. But I've observed this in my students and people, who are always complaining and cribbing and crying. They're not willing to take that leap of faith, just go ahead and things will happen. The path will open up. So, for example, today, like I'm not afraid. I don't fear most things. Maybe a lizard or a snake, but apart from that general fear, I don't fear anything. But I am shy in the sense to go for swimming in our community pool. So there would be men, and it might look awkward if I go there. So what I did, I wanted a group of ladies to join me. So what I did, I put it in our common WhatsApp group for people, ladies who are willing. Please join me in the afternoon. Morning we have a trainer, but morning is a very busy time. So afternoon, like before 12 o'clock, from 11 to afternoon, we can go. So most of the ladies, they were worried, like I'll drown, and I had a miserable experience in the past. Someone told me all this. I said, it's just for half an hour. We'll go only till that 4 feet. All of us are above 5 feet, right? So 3 to 4 feet is what we'll do. And if we walk in the water, you don't have to go for knee replacement. Most of us have this knee pain at this age. So it will be a good exercise. So I help people to come out of that brooding thing which they were doing. And some of them had bottled up their feelings, they were one by one, they're DMing me, and most probably by next week, I'll have a bunch of people who will be swimming in the afternoon. So I don't know how coherent I've been. I just wanted to share this. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deepa, to share, about the book and your experiences. So, what do you actually say to yourself when you were saying that I don't get bogged down with issues? What comes to your mind automatically? What is the story that you play in your mind? If you can share. Deepa?
Yeah. I'd muted myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you ask that question again?
So you
How?
shared that things don't bog you down, any kind of a problem you come up, and so what comes to your mind? What is the talk that happens in your mind, and what is the story that plays that keeps you going? Keeping the
Okay.
next foot forward and go ahead rather than looking back. If you can
See,
share that. Yeah.
I primarily feel, it is like we read a paragraph about our childhood experiences also, right?
Right.
So from my childhood, now I've led a very nomadic life. My father being an Air Force officer, sometimes within one academic year, I had to change a school, couple of schools, or keeping on traveling all the time, and then meeting cousins, making new friends, being in a new destination. So you have this coping up mechanism within people who have led a lifestyle like me, wherein you let go and learn to move on. Brooding will not help us to live. It's a survival mechanism, I believe. When you ask this question, I'm thinking about it, what happens. So we have to move on. That's it. The choice of brooding or bottling up or is not there. You just have to just do it. Now, as I said, the present thing is the knee pain. I don't want to go for the knee replacement surgery or whatever. Last year it was driving. I didn't want to depend on any cab wala or anyone. So as and when required, I should be able to drive myself around. So I took up driving as my goal and I did it. So now this year it is swimming. Yeah, it is like 4 decades since I swam. I know the concept, but maybe with time I feel I might have lost it. So I want to go back, not for the enjoyment or anything, more for fitness purpose. So I don't know. I never had this problem of not doing something. If something has to be done, it has to be done. I just go ahead and do it. So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, great. It's good to know the spirit, and the way
Yeah.
you have put it is whatever your childhood has shaped a lot of what you are currently doing. If you see in the book, that is what it also says, that
Yeah.
childhood has a lot of impact on the way you actually feel the feelings, and they put you
Actually,
into the unwritten
I don't
rules.
understand when people say, I can't do it. I'm thinking about it. There is this fear. I fail to relate to that because personally, I don't do that. If something has to be done, it has to be done. Just go ahead and do it. Yeah, I can't climb Mount Everest. That is not feasible for me. I know my limits. But I can go for Palani Padayatra. That I know. And I can climb the hill. That's it. But beyond that, I know my limits and I'll set my goals and targets and my ambitions in relation to that. So that is how the mechanism in my mind, works.
Great, Deepa, to know that aspect, that perspective. Yeah. Anybody else would like to share quickly the striking points of the book, what it revealed to you, what you didn't know earlier, or something
Yes.
a bit more striking? Yeah.
Yeah, I was sharing in the meanwhile I lost my network connection.
Yeah.
So I was saying that sometimes in the negative environment, so-called negative environment where we have envy and such type of emotions we feel, so sometimes they brings the best out of us also. Like in the book, this chapter we were doing, many examples were given. We perform better in control instead of in brooding, or we are in told in prior that we will be happy, but we come out sad. That type of scenario, yeah.
So you could relate with that, and you understand that that's what you have also observed in life, right? That envy also is happy.
True.
Anything else, Sumit?
Yeah, like Deepa ma'am was saying that she does, but whenever she feels to do it. Uh, Same also I can relate to that most of the procrastination happens in our mind. If we feel we have to do it, we just do it. Sometimes we plan a lot, but we are not able to take actions. But just if we have given signals to our mind that we have to do it, then most of the problems are solved.
Great. So what is your formula, like what Deepa said, her experiences and her, which has, molded her attitude that if something has to be done, it has to be done, right? So what
Yes.
is your mantra, or what is that you keep on telling yourself to keep you going ahead?
Yes, I also feel if this is my priority, whether I want it or not, I have to do and I do it.
Okay. Okay, so the necessity will eventually motivate you to do it, right?
Yeah, true.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you want to share?
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, anybody else? Shilpa, Saurabh, Milind, Mansi?
Yeah, I just the striking point for me today in the reading, it was I loved the part, it was how it was shared, and I loved how the bottling and brooding was explained, and it was very very relatable because I could really resonate with times, myself included, as well as people around me who have similar patterns of bottling or either brooding or whatever. And I loved how the author actually uh, eventually helped us understand that nothing is bad. So, and overall, like identifying the importance of emotions and all of that. Again, that reminds me of the Inside Out movie. And basically, what I understand and have come to understand is every emotion is important because it is more or less like a GPS for us. So it's not like, but what how we are conditioned is we are actually somewhere trained to think that okay, anger is bad, sadness is bad. So somewhere it happens that we learn to suppress it, or we learn to disregard it, or we always want to be positive and happy and all the time. But that is where, when we do the healing or some inner work, we realize there are so many suppressed emotions which are actually causing the problem, or whatever we are doing, we are feeling hollow. Then we feel hollow victories, or we are not really happy about something, but we are just going on doing it. So I feel it's more about like a balanced approach to life and everything, not considering the good and bad, but basically like everything is in coherence with one another, and somewhere it's more or less like a yin yang for me. Like both are equally important. Like we have a good side as well as we have a shadow side, and we need to embrace both of them. So that is what I just felt, and that just got highlighted for me today. And I think eventually even the author will help us understand that. I'm just hoping that even she will help us understand that how every emotion is important and how do we process it. So I don't know, but I'm assuming that might, because the next chapter is also named Showing Up, right? So I don't know, but this is what just popped up for me. And I loved how she had explained it all, and I could really relate with it. So, yeah, very much true. And I've seen that many people around me, especially in family, and many people who I feel like who are like you have to be always positive and that kind of an attitude. They do bottle up most of their emotions, or otherwise there are people where we see that they're brooding. They always want to talk about the negative things, always want to gossip, want to share with their close ones. We're venting out. So I understand, even in coaching and all, what we normally the process is where we actually let the people vent out, because that's important. But eventually, that has to take us somewhere. You have to do something about it, because only venting out doesn't help. That's what the author also explained, right? Like that, then nothing happens, nothing progresses after that. So that is why brooding is also not helpful all the time, because then it becomes a pattern, and then we tend to go in the victim mindset. And then we stay there without doing anything about it, but more or less making it a habit. So that is what I just felt, and this is what just popped up for me today. And all in all, a wonderful reading. And even I would like to go back and, in fact, introspect on all the chapters we have read so far. And yes, thank you for this wonderful share. And Deepa, I loved your example, how you connected with that small incident and you could analyze it with that. So it was really helpful. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Manisalvi. I'm done my sharing. You
Yeah,
can
anybody
take over.
else would like to share?
Well, I don't have any specific point to share, but I had one question which I got in the last section that we were reading, the upside of anger, right? Where they mentioned a study which showed that students who expressed some benign envy towards other successful students had greater motivation and expressed than their peers who expressed admiration and had positive feelings. So, is are we trying to say that being envious is good in a way? Because we have always learned that we should always look into good qualities of people around us and stuff. So that made me a little confused while I'm grasping the other concepts of the chapter or the book. So if someone can help me understand what author is trying to prove using this.
Uh, can I or Manisalvi, you want to
Yeah,
add
please
something?
go ahead. Please go ahead, whoever wants. And then I'll maybe add at the end. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a perspective on this, and this is something I learned from my mentor. So one of the thing about every emotion is basically when we feel envious or jealous of someone, is basically so that's what I just talked about, right? Like we are like trained or conditioned to think of certain emotions as negative and certain as positive. So obviously we are more we have a tendency to go towards the positive because we all like that goody goodiness and we all want to be good and all in that good things, right? So but actually so she explains it very beautifully that jealousy, envy, or whatever these things when we feel towards someone, or in fact even emotions, this is not what she said, but this is what I have understood, that even when people have extramarital affairs or something, when you're just attracted towards someone who is even better than you or something like that, and we are not understanding those emotions particularly, we are confused about it. So because we are somewhere trying to suppress or deny those because we feel no, I should not be feeling this is not good thing. But actually it is like an indicator. It is basically like a GPS, or it is basically telling us that okay, I want this thing. So that is why I want that something that the other person has, which I too would want to have in my life, because otherwise we are taught to be content and settled and things like that. So when we understand, when we process that emotion, it's basically understanding that okay, I do desire that. So then that directs us to thinking. When we accept that as an emotion, then we are directed in a way to understand ki, okay, so then what can I do to have this? Rather than suppressing it and then forcing ourselves to be content about something that we are not having, we address it and we actually work towards it. So what I feel, answering your question, Saurabh, is basically when people who are like the point that the author said, maybe the perspective here is that people who have that emotion strong in them are more ambitious, right? Because they have it very strong. They want to make it happen. Whereas the others are like, it's okay, they get it, they don't get it. So that makes them achieve more is what I assume, and which I also feel that it might be quite of a. I have seen that like even in people, right, who are more ambitious, they want to be always the first and they always want to do the best. But it's also about channelizing that energy in the right direction. So if they channelize it in their work or things like that, then that does help them to achieve and that too has a drawback, because then those people are not able to accept their defeat. So then they have to work on the other side of it. So I think there is always this contrast, and we are always seeking balance from that. Like if you see, even in couples, we'll find that many people, if one spouse is very time driven and productive, the other will be a lousy one, and they both are somewhere seeking balance together. So I believe, like our world operates that way, where it's eventually teaching us, bringing us with the opposites, and helping us. Like come to a midpoint, like not addressing the good or bad, learning us not to be judgmental and all of that. So I think I see at things this way. So that's how I see it. So yeah, if that answers your question, I don't know. I just try to address
Sure,
whatever
sure.
I
Yes, I'll
have
just
learned.
yeah, I'll just try to rephrase what you just mentioned. So if I'm feeling
Yeah,
envious, let us say towards a success, someone who is successful, so I should take that as a sign that I want to be more successful, maybe, or my values are more aligned with success, and I should maybe look for ways to be more successful. So that is what that emotion is trying to tell me, and then maybe work towards being more successful or whatever that means in that particular state.
yes, yes. And in fact, not always, not everyone is operating differently, right? Based on their conditioning, their upbringing, and their way of how they perceive the world and their beliefs and everything. So not everyone is conditioned to see things like envy or whatever. They are not conditioned enough to understand that okay, whatever I'm feeling towards this person is basically I want to achieve that or something like that. So for some people it comes to a strong envious feeling. For some people it comes to a way of attraction, like they're very much attracted to that person. They want to be that person is their role model and they want to be like them. For some people it comes the other way. So for them it's like it's okay. It's basically just addressing that we want to be like that. That person is actually doing, achieving, or having something that I would like to have. So I need to address that and how I can channelize it better, accepting it fully. So or then processing it actually. So what my mentor used to say. She says that basically if there is someone who is doing much better than me, then I know what it takes because I have been trying hard enough. And if I am not able to do that, that means that that person is doing something definitely different and better. So I would rather than being jealous, I would rather uh, feel more respect for that person because she is actually doing something which I have not been able to or I would like to do something like that. So it's just way of reframing it. But there is no emotion as good and bad. If we just like stop bifurcating it, we actually look at them very differently. And even sadness for that matter, sadness tells us like, okay, I need to work on this. This is not something I would like to feel. And same about all the emotions. So she says that very beautifully, like when she's busy with her work or something and she doesn't is not able to give time to her kids, and if guilt creeps in, then what she can do is basically she makes it as a marker and she makes sure that now she is guilty about not spending time with the kids. So she'll make an extra effort to put extra quality time with the kids later. So it's like if you just compensate and you just harmonize your life and balance it out, like rather than falling for those emotions and self sabotaging around it is what I understand and I try to follow. And I'm still in the process of learning, but that's how I operate. So that helps. It keeps us at peace actually. So yeah, that was sorry. It was a long. Sorry, I took long.
Nancy,
Please
can
go
I
ahead.
add something? Hello.
Yeah. Please, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, Mansi, you beautifully explained this particular concept of envy. Saurabh, I will give you a quick example of this envy and jealousy because I have gone through the similar experience. We are actually reflecting here, while reading this book, each and every experience which I had in this thing. Is very simple. Like in meditation, we say, uh, if you love someone, if you love someone, we remember that person a lot. Okay, so these are all the energies actually. So I just exactly I'm saying what Mansi is saying. These are all energy. There is no good or no bad. Okay, if you love someone, you remember them a lot. You want to be with them a lot. Okay, a fiancé, a wife, where we love with. So that is the emotion. Okay, we say love is a positive one. Okay, envy is exactly opposite. I will give you the example, my own example. Okay, envy is exactly opposite on the same scale. It is just as a negative charge. Okay, envy is where we are. That is how I analyze. Okay, my example. Envy is where I don't want to see that person because I'm jealous of that person. I'm envy of that person. Okay, so I work in an organization where I work with the top directors, and sometimes I hate them or jealous them or envy them. Okay, so how basically yes, definitely this requires inner reflection. But then what why exactly? Because when you envy, yes, every meeting you had with that person, you hate that meeting or you remember that person in your time. Okay, the way he behaved, the way he present himself, some points actually. The positive side of this thing, why these thoughts are again coming to me again and again, because as Mansi actually explained that beautifully, because you are seeing yourself there, you want those qualities and achievements and success in your life. Okay, so that is something someone already achieved. Okay, so that is a very positive actually thing to this thing, that your emotions come back saying that, Milind, you have those resources within you. Okay, you are not only up to that particular level, but you need to work on that. Okay, where I use this, one of my friend, we started the same career in IT, and he's now I think director in one of the company in Dubai, one of the bank in Dubai. Okay, so whenever I see his LinkedIn profile, I am a little bit open here, but that is how I need to analyze my emotions. Then since we started together, okay, so yes, I have those qualities, so I need to progress in my career. So I need to do little bits analysis, that is again in NLP what we call modeling. That which particular path he has taken, what are the qualities that he enhanced in his life. So that is what we are discussing here. So these are, we need to take it positively, saying that yes, these emotions are with me, how I can make use of this, because these are all our energies. But once you start working on them, that is how I did. Okay, what this particular person did in his life, that's why he's in this position. So okay, so he has this qualification. So even if I start working on this thing, those action, if I take actions on those things, automatically this envy and this energy, this energy charge on this one start reducing, because you are on the path. So these are all emotions comes to, that is what my analysis comes to me, to just show that yes, you can also have that success. So then that it gives a total different dimension to it. Then you start speaking to that person, trying to understand him. That is what NLP says. Then start modeling it, discussing with that person how you reach to this particular level, and that person is actually really nice and good person. I got this experience many times. When you talk to those person, those are really good, and they actually ready to help you to bring your career to that level. So yeah, that is again just sharing my experience. This is all true. So there is nothing negative about it, but yeah, we need to reframe this in our own way, taking action. Basically, yes, action kills this thing. And a last answer to Deepa's query, like why people say I can't do it. The reason means, my reason is, yes, I failed cycling actually in my childhood when I was 7th standard. Yes, definitely at that time it was 300 rupees charge, a penalty I need to pay, because I break some jars, etc. But then after that, I never bicycled up to around 7 or 8 years. Okay, when I was in college, I started. It is exactly the same reason that you then just stop, because of the effect it has on you. And then I never able to use the bike. Okay, I never ride on a bike, means like start to learn bike because of the fear of the cycling. And the answer actually we discuss here, yes, once in UK, definitely I started driving cars, etc. Because necessary drives you, that motivation drives you to take the action and overcome that fear. So just actually explain, just giving some examples of real life. Thank you everyone.
I um I just want to, I don't know if I don't, okay, let me put it this way. There are some emotions that I don't want in my body. And maybe that those can be called negative. And just as Milinji so beautifully and so candidly talked about his personal examples, I would just like to tell you, I was once upon a time, it just happened once. I was in a situation where I experienced jealousy. And that jealousy was, I even when I think of it, I don't experience it anymore, because I have managed to keep that emotion. I worked with it, but for the 2 days that I had that emotion of jealousy, it ate me up from inside. So there is a difference between envy and jealousy, and I was jealous. I was not envious, and it ate me really. I was just, it was like a fire eating me up from inside. And I never wanted to experience this again. So I am not convinced that emotions cannot be called positive or negative. I just say that I don't want some emotion which does not make me feel good. Now, sadness does not make me feel like what I felt with jealousy. And even sadness, I know each of these emotions are like energy in motion. So they all and everything in life is so impermanent, like the Buddhist tradition talks about, or even Hinduism talks about. So I do believe that some emotions have, I'll use Melanji's words, a negative charge to it. And I don't want to experience that in my body. And I think our Hinduism or Buddhism traditions or Taoism, they all talk about disidentifying yourself from the emotion. Just watch the emotion. And then that energy in motion, because it is energy in motion, it does not stay forever. It just, if you let it go, let it be, it just moves away. And reframing it as as an example of what Milanji gave or what Mansi talked about, if you just concentrate on yourself and try to become better than the one you were yesterday, we don't have to go through all these myriad of emotions. We can just be happy that the other person is happy. And why can't we just accept that the other person has gone? And another thing I've realized in life, or this experience, that when I separated from my husband, and I mean, before that, my husband would always tell me, "Oh, everybody looks, everybody's happy. Like all our friends, everybody is happy." And once we got separated, you will not believe how much I found out that all of those that looked happy, they just looked happy. They were not happy. There were enough cracks in their relationships too. So all that shines is not always gold. So you don't know what the other person had to go through to become what he has become. And when we look at our life, or somebody else looks at your life, and they would say, "Oh my God, you've done really good. You came up all this way." So there are two sides of a coin, right? I just wanted to express these two things. Thank you.
Saurabh, so I think your question is answered. So from my side, I just want to tell you, just add certain things, because Mansi, Milind and Shilpa have beautifully explained all aspects and shared their experiences, which makes it more, understandable. So basically, the thing that happens here is, as I discussed on day 2, it's basically you are projecting your perception on the other person when you feel these emotions. So normally what it indicates is that is something which you yearn for. Maybe you want, you wish, your desire. So it's more like an indicator when you look at a concept of jealousy or emotion of jealousy or envy. Now I have a person, I know a person who is, he's always on an envy mode. He's jealous of almost everything. So if you see how that person will behave is, he'll be always on the on the feet. He'll be ready to grab an opportunity, ready to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. So that is what it, and he is always motivated. So that envy or jealous mode is helping him to do that. Now, what is the flip side to that? You might get drained, you might be always on an alert thing, and somewhere it brings down your quality life. You will achieve a lot of success externally as you think those things are very valuable, but at the end of the day it might feel you might feel a bit of a vacuum, right? That this is not enough, right? So you keep on running from one milestone to another. So this is a person which I've seen who is actually full of envy, and it works for him because he has in a very small age achieved a lot. So this is something which is helping him, but also there is a side effect to it, right? And it is the price that we have to pay for getting what we want. So, one has to balance these two aspects and see whether this is what you really want, and are you ready to do or take the effort to reach there. Will you be okay to do all the things, and will it be really congruent with you for achieving that? So that is when you understand this is what you need, and step back and look at it more deeper, that really can you achieve, or are you willing to take steps to achieve that. Second is, if it becomes a habit, then maybe it will cling to your identity or a personality. So it is your choice then. So do you want to come across a bit more aggressive? Because these people will have an aggressive tone. They will be like mocking people. They will try to pinpoint your mistake to put you down just because they are envious and jealous. So are you wanting to go into that level? And let us not go into a habit loop in these issues. Let it be only once in a while, or a genuine envy and jealousy, which will be more like an indicator. So that is alone I wanted to add here, that it's ultimately your pick, and if you see it habitually happening, then somewhere something is unaddressed. Somewhere you are feeling short, that you are not enough, or you are comparing too much with lot of people, which actually is not required in life. You can have a few goals which you keep on working on achieving, and not like a small kid that every new thing that shows in the next shop you want to buy, right? So that is what I would like to add here. Yeah, Saurabh, anything else you want to say?
No, I think thank you everyone. That gives a lot of perspective and explains it in quite a bit of detail. Just that one thing that I mean, it may be unrelated to this. I mean, and it's something personal to me as well. Like a lot of times, the envy I feel personally is because of the kind of a perfectionist attitude somewhere, which is there deep within me. While I know that neither I am perfect nor others can be, but at the same time, when I have certain way of doing things and behaving in life, and I see someone who is not doing that and still they are thriving in their life, I would develop a envy or a jealousy for those people. And maybe all this answers it pretty much, that because I'm yearning for those qualities that they have, and maybe that perfectionist attitude is just a excuse in this entire equation. So yeah, maybe I'll try to reflect more on that. But thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, Saurabh. So all I would like to say is, as the author says, don't label anything good and bad and not resist it. Allow it and let it pass as well. So let it not stay too long, and also let it be in limits. Like stretching a emotion too much, or allowing it to loop in, will again cause its own side effects. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Saurabh, for being, asking this question so that we all could actually deep dive and understand it much more better, right? So thank you, everyone. There is nothing further anybody wants to talk about, then we'll call it a day. Anyone?
Thank
I
you
just
for this.
typed something.
Yeah,
I
please.
just want to add that before, like, just in the context with what I shared and what Saurabh has asked. Saurabh, in the reference that you have mentioned from the book, where they have mentioned that how some people who have envy in them, like, do better in their life later, something like that, right? So, in the context of that, I just remembered an example again by the same mentor, and I'll just share that with you. So, it's basically, she says that for some people, it's like the rocket, how the rocket needs fire to start. So that this strong emotions that we feel act like a fire. Like ऐसे होता है ना कि when someone just criticizes you for something and then you just pick up you up तो I'll show this person. So somewhere that helps us to a certain extent to get started, to just get a boom. So that these emotions play a good role into getting us going in the initial phases. But eventually, if we see, everyone has to work on this, and we all have to do that. Like eventually when we have to move from one phase to another, and we have to, as just like a satellite or whatever, like when they go from one dimension to another, they have to shed some of the parts, and become lighter and lighter to climb higher and higher. So I think that's how the journey is, and I think that's how it operates with those people who become successful in life. I think that's what the author is also trying to highlight, maybe. So just thought about it. So yeah, and in your context, actually, that is quite obvious that when we see that we are working harder than someone and that person is striving better than us, it's obviously going to be. But maybe in this feeling, maybe you need to just uh, pick it up rightly that maybe what you want is the luxury that the person is experiencing, and maybe not through the methods that they are doing because they do not align with your values. It happens with me too many other times. So maybe we just have to see how we can get there with keeping in touch with our own values. So that is what I am striving for. So that is, it's an indicator. Okay, I want a lifestyle like that person, or I want to be thriving like that person, or I want to have more family time like that person, whatever it is. And then actually seeing to it like how can I be creative and innovative enough that I can actually get there without compromising on my values, which maybe the other person is doing something like that. Just an addition. So yeah, Manisali, sorry, we just discussed so much today. I don't know if you had to share something
Yeah, I
and
had to
you
share,
couldn't.
but
I
it's
don't.
okay. But I think it was most fruitful today because genuine queries came up, and I think this book is actually making us think, look back and think of and relate with our lives. So I think the purpose of the book has served very well today. And I thank you everyone to be participative and actually contribute your views and open up to this
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah,
So thank
What
thanks
we
for
can do
actually.
now, Maniselvi, sorry, just a minute.
So
I'll
yeah,
just finish this and then you add. Maniselvi, what we can do tomorrow when we start, you start with whatever you wanted to share today. And then we'll go with the reading, if that is okay.
right.
Then we jump to the reading next, whatever new chapter. So we are in alignment with whatever the topic is and what you wanted to share because you bring it according in alignment with the chapters, right? So it will stay in sync that way.
Right.
Yeah, Milinji, please.
No, yeah. Thank Mansuri speaking. First of all, this particular book and the progress which we are reading in the doing this is really good. And yes, here we are discussing, like NLP techniques, reframing, modeling. Shilpa talk about meditation and all that. Only at since because we at least we know up to that level, but there are many I can say 95% people around in our family and that they do not absolutely know anything about this thing. Like how to handle emotions and all that. At least we know, so that's why we are actually directly talking about the methods and how to get this thing. But as Mansi just explained, this some people can use this negativity as a starting point motivation factor. But I think Mansilvi, you only explained that. I like that. It is like catching burning coal in your hand. It definitely drains energy. It gives you kind of motivation to do something, to get successful and all that, but it is not at all long term. So the bottom rule which I set for my this thing, uh, be happy and do just focus on your this thing. At the end, that is what going to give you the success. So inside, yes, have to feel happy for all the task or whatever I'm doing, so that is good. And the example Mansil we given, I think second or third day, that is a core example of owl story and the peacock and that deer story. The whole world is our reflection. I really believe on this concept. This whole world is a mirror reflection. Whatever I am seeing, that is my reflection, and there is something for me. So yeah, so just need to take that learning from here and just it helps us to grow. So beautiful session. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Yes, very true. Thank you. It was a wonderful discussion.
Yeah,
Thank you so
I
much.
put
And
a bit of
Maniselvi,
my
thank you
thoughts.
for being so flexible and receptive for everything. So thank you for being such a wonderful leader for us. Yeah. Yeah,
Thank you. I just put a little bit of something in the chat. Yeah, that's my current worry. Maybe the whole world is thinking about it in the same line. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Manish Selvi.
just say it out, say it out now, whatever it is, because you might be able to explain
Okay,
it better. Like
it's just that the war is going on, and by mistake a missile hits, and I am the opposite of OCD. I live in clutter. I create clutter, and I live in the midst of it. I feel comfort in clutter. So I don't want the clutter anymore. If suddenly the world comes to an end and I leave chaos behind me, that would be very bad and shabby of me. So I don't want people to clean up behind me. So my new agenda is also to clean up my life, my home, my health, everything, so that if anything untoward happens, if at all, everything is clean. And also I don't regret, if, that I didn't do this, I didn't do that. So I want to live life to the fullest. So that is also my goal. I don't know if it relates to our present book, but that is what is keeping
No,
me going.
definitely. No, definitely it relates, Dipaji, but it's good that you shared. And I took this line from Mansi only, like box everything. I started using that principle from last year. Decluttering, just box everything, put everything in a box. Now,
Yeah,
what is that
that's what.
Mansi line? Find home for each and every thing, right?
Yeah,
That
it's a Marie Kondo this
yes,
thing where Marie Kondo
yeah,
she's the one who has built business around this and she's a wonderful woman.
yeah,
So it's basically it's giving a home to everything. So
yeah,
every
yeah. I love
smallest
that
thing in
line.
your house or whatever, you
Yes,
just
yeah,
give a home to that particular thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
It
if
helped
it
me.
is a
That line
pen or
helped me a lot.
something, yeah. So that
Really
that
good,
helps.
really good.
Even I'm trying. I'm
Thank
not very good at it
you.
personally, but I'm trying to get there. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Another
But
version of
at
that is,
least, sorry, Saurabh. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
go ahead.
Saurabh.
no, I was just saying another version of that is some people say a place for everything and everything in place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow,
Yeah,
well
place
yeah,
said.
for
yeah,
a
Yeah.
place,
yeah. That's
place for
again
a
good.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And we
So
should
those type of
actually read
liners
Marie
help,
Kondo's book
really
also,
helps.
Mansi, sometime.
So whatever applies to the clutter around applies to the clutter within also, right? So let keep the emotions in check and give the right
Yeah,
place to each of them, the right respect and right value, right?
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
with these things, I think we can conclude for the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you,
Perfect.
everyone. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you,
it was very
everyone.
lively. Yeah,
See you
thank you.
tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.